Loneliness is not merely a state of being physically alone. It is a quiet, pervasive weight that seeps into every corner of your life, coloring your thoughts, emotions, and even your body. Many people think that loneliness is simply about lacking company, but the truth is far more subtle and far more insidious. As Irvin Yalom explains in Existential psychotherapy, loneliness is an existential condition, an inevitable part of the human experience that arises from the very nature of our consciousness. We are, each of us, fundamentally alone in our subjective experiences, and this realization can be both terrifying and transformative. Yet, when unacknowledged or suppressed, it becomes a silent burden, a shadow that follows you even in a crowded room. The weight of loneliness often manifests in ways that are difficult to identify. It can appear as an emptiness that nothing seems to fill, a persistent sense of disconnection from those around you, or even a feeling that life itself has lost its vibrancy. Viktor Frankl, in Man's Search for Meaning, described a similar sense of inner void experienced by individuals stripped of purpose and connection. Frankl observed that even in the direst circumstances, such as the concentration camps, people could experience profound loneliness, not merely because of physical isolation, but because of the absence of meaningful connection and personal significance. This insight underscores that loneliness is not always visible. It is an internal experience, a psychological state that can silently erode our well-being. Loneliness can also create a self-reinforcing cycle. The more we feel disconnected, the more our minds turn inward, magnifying negative thoughts and anxieties. Depression often thrives in this space, feeding off the belief that we are fundamentally unworthy of companionship or understanding. According to psychoanalyst John Bowlby, attachment and connection are central to our emotional health. And when these needs are unmet, our sense of self can feel fractured. The silent weight of loneliness thus becomes more than an emotional discomfort. It becomes a psychological trap, subtly convincing us that we are isolated not just physically, but in our very essence. In many ways, loneliness forces us to confront aspects of ourselves we might rather ignore. Jung suggested that the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny or repress, often becomes more visible when we are alone. In moments of solitude, unresolved grief, unspoken fears and buried desires can surface, making the weight of loneliness feel almost unbearable. Yet, it is precisely this confrontation with our inner world that holds the potential for profound self-understanding. Yalom writes that existential anxiety, including the anxiety of isolation, is not something to eliminate, but something to engage with thoughtfully. Recognizing the silent weight of loneliness can be the first step toward finding a deeper connection with ourselves and, eventually, with others. Modern life, with its emphasis on speed, productivity, and digital communication, often amplifies this experience. Social media creates the illusion of connection while leaving many feeling profoundly alone. The constant comparison to curated images of other people's lives can heighten the sense of inadequacy and reinforce the belief that we are invisible, unimportant, or disconnected. In this sense, loneliness becomes not only a personal struggle, but a societal one. It is a quiet epidemic, one that psychoanalysts and existential therapists alike acknowledge as a central challenge of contemporary life. Yet, the silent weight of loneliness is not without purpose. It is a signal, an invitation to explore the depth of our emotional experience. By acknowledging it, naming it, and allowing ourselves to sit with it, we can begin to understand the roots of our isolation and take steps toward authentic connection. Yalom emphasizes that existential challenges, including loneliness, can be catalysts for growth. When faced consciously, they have the power to transform despair into insight, emptiness into curiosity, and isolation into a more intentional pursuit of meaning. In the end, The silent weight of loneliness is both a burden and an opportunity. It is a reminder that we are human, that we crave understanding and connection, and that life, despite its inevitable separations, offers the chance for profound relational and self-awareness. Recognizing this hidden side of loneliness, as Yalom and other psychoanalysts teach, is the first step toward reclaiming a sense of agency, purpose, and emotional resilience in a world that often seems indifferent to our inner struggles. Loneliness, at its core, acts as a mirror. When the noise of the world fades and distractions fall away, you are left face to face with yourself, and what you see can be both illuminating and unsettling. Irvin Yalom, in Existential Psychotherapy, emphasizes that existential isolation is an unavoidable part of human existence, and in those moments of solitude, we are confronted with the reality of our inner selves. The mirror of loneliness reflects not only who we are, but who we have avoided being, the fears we suppress, the desires we deny, the pain we refuse to acknowledge. It is here, in the stillness, that the unspoken truths of our psyche emerge, demanding attention. For many who struggle with depression, this reflection can be frightening. The mind, unshielded by the presence of others, begins to replay internal narratives that are often harsh and unforgiving. Freud long ago observed that the unconscious contains conflicts and memories that influence behavior in profound ways, often outside of conscious awareness. Loneliness can bring these unconscious forces to the surface, forcing you to confront emotions you might otherwise avoid. This confrontation can feel overwhelming, yet it is precisely this process that opens the door to self-understanding and ultimately healing. Viktor Frankl, who witnessed the depths of human despair, argued that meaning often emerges from suffering. When loneliness reveals the emptiness within, it simultaneously points toward the potential for discovery, growth, and purpose. The mirror of loneliness is not flattering because it exposes our vulnerabilities. Jung called this the encounter with the shadow, the part of ourselves that we reject or deny. In solitude, the shadow grows impossible to ignore. You may find that you carry unhealed grief, anger, shame, or regret, and these emotions feel magnified when you're alone. Yet the shadow is not an enemy. Jung insisted that facing it courageously allows for integration, the harmonizing of conscious and unconscious aspects of the self. Through this process, the emptiness felt in loneliness can gradually transform into a space for insight and self-compassion. The mirror, though stark, offers an opportunity to see the full spectrum of your being, rather than the partial, curated image you present to the world. Loneliness also serves as a test of authenticity. In the absence of external validation, you are forced to ask difficult questions. Who am I beneath the roles I play? What do I truly feel when no one is watching? What desires and dreams have I silenced to fit into expectations or avoid rejection? Yalom describes this confrontation as the essence of existential psychotherapy, the point at which you must reconcile your freedom and responsibility in creating a meaningful life. Depression can cloud this process, making the mirror seem like a source of judgment rather than reflection. Yet those who approach it with curiosity rather than fear often discover insights that elude them in the busyness of daily life. The danger lies in avoidance. Many try to escape the mirror through distractions, work, social media, routines, or even substances, yet the reflection remains. The more you resist, the more the weight of unacknowledged emotions accumulates, intensifying the sense of disconnection. Psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott emphasized the importance of being alone in the presence of your true self, describing it as a state in which the individual can experience continuity of being and develop a healthy sense of self. Confronting loneliness directly allows you to acknowledge the pain, accept it, and gradually build resilience and self-awareness. However, The mirror of loneliness is not only about discomfort, it is also about revelation. Within its reflection lies the potential for profound insight. You may discover strengths, creative capacities, or aspects of your personality that have remained dormant because you were too distracted to notice them. Frankl reminds us that even in extreme isolation, humans have the capacity to find meaning. In everyday life, when loneliness reveals the truths of your inner world, it can guide you toward relationships, activities, and life choices that resonate with your authentic self. It is through this mirror that you learn not only to survive solitude, but to transform it into a source of clarity and empowerment. Ultimately, loneliness as a mirror is both a challenge and an invitation. It challenges you to face the aspects of yourself you might rather ignore and invites you to explore the depth of your inner life with honesty and courage. Depression may make this encounter painful, but it also magnifies the opportunity for self-understanding. By learning to sit with the reflection, to observe rather than flee, you begin to cultivate a profound awareness of who you are, what you need, and what it means to be truly connected. Not just to others, but to yourself. In this way, the mirror of loneliness becomes less a punishment and more a guide, illuminating the path toward authenticity, resilience, and meaningful engagement with life. The fear of connection is a paradoxical companion of loneliness. On one hand, we crave closeness, intimacy, and understanding. On the other, the very idea of opening ourselves to others can provoke anxiety, hesitation, and avoidance. Irvin Yalom in Existential psychotherapy explains that existential isolation is an unavoidable reality. No matter how deep a relationship may be, each individual experiences life from a singular, private perspective. This awareness can make human connection both profoundly desirable and terrifyingly risky. The fear that others might see, misunderstand, or reject the true self can lead individuals to withdraw, reinforcing the very isolation they wish to escape. For those struggling with depression, this fear often manifests as a belief that others will never truly understand or accept them. The mind exaggerates potential rejection, focusing on perceived flaws and past disappointments. Freud highlighted the influence of early relational experiences on adult attachment patterns, noting that unmet needs or trauma can make trust and intimacy particularly challenging. When these fears are internalized, the longing for connection becomes tangled with apprehension, creating a cycle in which loneliness feeds fear and fear feeds loneliness. The result is a sense of being trapped in one's own inner world, unable to bridge the gap between oneself and others. Attachment theory further illuminates this phenomenon. John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth observed that early experiences with caregivers shape how individuals approach relationships throughout life. Those who experienced inconsistent or unresponsive care may develop anxious or avoidant patterns, simultaneously desiring connection yet fearing it. Yalom expands on this by suggesting that existential anxiety heightens these fears. The awareness of mortality, freedom, and the ultimate aloneness of human existence intensifies the vulnerability inherent in forming bonds. To reach out to another person is to risk exposure, disappointment, or abandonment. For someone already grappling with depression, this vulnerability can feel insurmountable. The fear of connection often leads to subtle, self-protective behaviors. One might avoid deep conversations, mask true emotions, or retreat into solitude, believing that this shields them from harm. Yet paradoxically, these defenses often intensify feelings of emptiness and despair. Winnicott, a psychoanalyst known for his work on the true and false self, suggested that such defenses, while protective, prevent authentic engagement and the development of a stable sense of self. Depression amplifies this challenge, making it harder to recognize when fear is guiding behavior rather than rational choice. The result? is a persistent sense of distance, not only from others, but from one's own authentic emotions and desires. Despite the challenge, fear of connection is not insurmountable. Yalom emphasizes that acknowledging existential isolation does not mean resigning oneself to perpetual solitude. Rather, it allows for conscious engagement with the risks and rewards of human relationships. The first step involves awareness, recognizing that fear is present, naming it, and understanding its origins. This self-awareness creates the possibility of intentional action, allowing individuals to reach out despite uncertainty. Viktor Frankl's insights on meaning are particularly relevant here. When we act in alignment with our values, even in the presence of fear, we find a sense of purpose that mitigates isolation and fosters authentic bonds. Therapeutic practice offers another pathway. In group or individual therapy, the process of being seen, heard, and validated allows individuals to experience safe, controlled connection. This experiential learning can gradually reduce fear and build confidence in relational engagement. Yalom notes that even small moments of authentic interaction, a shared vulnerability, a genuine acknowledgement, can disrupt entrenched patterns of avoidance and open the door to meaningful relationships. Over time, the act of connection, once feared, becomes a source of strength, resilience, and emotional nourishment. Ultimately, the fear of connection is not a flaw. It is a natural response to the vulnerability inherent in human relationships. Depression may magnify this fear, making it seem insurmountable, yet it also presents an opportunity for growth. By facing the fear, reflecting on its roots, and gradually experimenting with authentic engagement, individuals can transform isolation into meaningful connection. The path is neither linear nor easy, but as Yalom reminds us, embracing the risks of human intimacy is central to a fulfilling life. To confront this fear is to reclaim agency, to assert that despite the shadow of loneliness, connection, real, imperfect, human connection, is possible. Solitude, often feared and resisted, can paradoxically become a fertile ground for creativity and personal growth. When the external noise fades and the mind is left to its own devices, ideas, emotions, and insights that were previously buried beneath routine and distraction begin to emerge. Irvin Yalom, in Existential psychotherapy, emphasizes that solitude confronts us with the reality of our existence, yet it also offers a unique opportunity. In isolation, we can explore the depths of our inner world without external judgment. For those struggling with depression, this can be both a challenge and a revelation, as the mind oscillates between despair and possibility. Viktor Frankl's observations in Man's Search for Meaning highlight the transformative potential of inner reflection. Frankl noted that even in the most harrowing conditions, individuals who engaged in deep introspection, imagination, or creative expression were often able to find purpose and sustain hope. Similarly, Rollo May, a key figure in existential psychology, argued that creativity is inseparable from anxiety and struggle. It arises when individuals confront the uncertainty of existence and channel it into expression. Solitude, in this context, is not emptiness, but a canvas on which the mind can project, explore, and ultimately shape meaning from the raw materials of experience. Depression often distorts our perception of solitude, making it feel like abandonment or void. Yet, when approached with awareness, these periods of aloneness can illuminate aspects of the self that remain hidden in social or busy contexts. Jung's concept of individuation, the process of becoming one's authentic self, relies on moments of introspection and engagement with the unconscious. In solitude, the shadow, repressed desires, and unexplored potentials become accessible. By facing these inner truths through reflection, journaling, art, or imaginative work, individuals can transform feelings of emptiness into creative and therapeutic engagement, slowly reclaiming agency over their internal life. The creative process in solitude is not merely about producing art or writing. It is about dialogue with oneself. The act of creation allows the mind to externalize complex emotions and thoughts that may otherwise remain tangled and oppressive. Yalom notes that existential anxiety, when acknowledged and engaged with thoughtfully, can inspire authenticity and meaningful expression. For someone experiencing depression, this can be profoundly liberating. The creation becomes both a mirror and a bridge, reflecting inner struggles while providing a channel to communicate them, even silently, to the outside world. Moreover, solitude fosters the kind of concentration and depth rarely possible in constant interaction. In contemporary society, where distraction is omnipresent, moments of quiet reflection are rare yet invaluable. The ability to sit with one's thoughts, observe the flow of feelings, and experiment with ideas cultivates resilience and self-understanding. Frankl's work demonstrates that even brief periods of introspective solitude can reframe suffering, allowing individuals to reinterpret challenges and discover hidden potentials. Depression may initially make these moments uncomfortable or even painful, but the very discomfort often signals the presence of unresolved emotions that, once explored, can fuel personal growth and creativity. It is important to note that solitude is not the same as isolation. While isolation can exacerbate depression by severing meaningful social contact, solitude is a conscious engagement with one's inner world. Yalom emphasizes that the key lies in awareness and intention. Solitude becomes therapeutic when approached with mindfulness and a willingness to explore rather than escape. For instance, using creative exercises, meditative reflection, or journaling, individuals can convert loneliness into an active, constructive process, transforming internal struggle into insight and expression. Ultimately, creativity in solitude reveals a profound truth. The mind, when given space, has remarkable capacity to heal, explore, and generate meaning. Depression may make this process difficult, but it also deepens the insights gained from introspection. By embracing solitude not as punishment, but as a laboratory for self-discovery, individuals can turn what once felt like emptiness into a source of empowerment and renewal. The act of creating, whether through art, writing, or even contemplative thought, is both a testament to human resilience and a bridge from isolation to self-connection. In this way, solitude, once feared, becomes a powerful ally in the journey toward emotional clarity, purpose, and authentic existence. Modern life, despite its technological advancements and seemingly endless opportunities for connection, has created a unique trap for loneliness. While we are constantly connected through social media, messaging apps, and online communities, these interactions often lack the depth and authenticity that nourish the human soul. Irvin Yalom, in Existential psychotherapy, warns that the illusions of connection can intensify feelings of existential isolation. The paradox is striking. We are more linked than ever, yet many people report feeling profoundly alone, misunderstood, and unseen. This disconnect between superficial interaction and genuine connection is one of the central challenges of contemporary existence. For those struggling with depression, modern social life can amplify the sense of isolation. Algorithms, curated content, and the highlight reels of others' lives on social media create constant comparison. Viktor Frankl observed that meaning and purpose are critical to mental well-being, and when life becomes a series of empty interactions, depression can deepen. Seeing others present polished images of happiness while battling internal emptiness fosters a sense of inadequacy and intensifies self-criticism. The trap lies not in technology itself, but in the gap between real human intimacy and the simulated interactions that dominate daily life. Psychoanalysts have long noted that human beings require authentic relational engagement to thrive. John Bowlby's work on attachment emphasizes the importance of secure bonds for emotional development and resilience. When these bonds are replaced by shallow connections or digital interactions, the emotional needs of the individual remain unmet. Yalom further explains that existential isolation is unavoidable, but the modern world compounds this reality by creating a facade of closeness without true vulnerability or understanding. The result is a loneliness that is both internal and social, a quiet suffering that persists even amid a crowd of friends and followers. Moreover, the pace of modern life often discourages reflection, introspection, and meaningful encounters. The constant pressure to perform, to be visible, and to consume can leave little space for authentic dialogue, both with oneself and with others. Depression magnifies the consequences. The fatigued, anxious mind is less able to seek genuine connection and more likely to accept surface-level interactions as substitutes for true engagement. Rollo May, in his work on existential psychology, emphasizes that meaningful human experiences require presence, attention, and courage, the very qualities that are eroded by a culture dominated by distraction and superficiality. The loneliness trap is also reinforced by societal messages about independence and self-sufficiency. Cultural norms often glorify autonomy while subtly stigmatizing vulnerability. Yalom notes that acknowledging our need for others is an existential truth that many resist, believing that expressing need equates to weakness. For someone battling depression, this internalized belief can prevent reaching out for help, deepening isolation. The modern environment, with its emphasis on performance and self-presentation, encourages hiding vulnerability, further embedding individuals in the cycle of loneliness. Yet, understanding this trap is the first step toward breaking it. Recognizing the difference between superficial interaction and authentic connection allows individuals to make conscious choices about their relationships, time, and engagement with others. Therapeutic approaches, including group and existential therapy, provide opportunities to experience real, empathetic connection, validating the importance of shared human experience. Frankl's principles remind us that meaning can be cultivated even in adverse circumstances. By intentionally seeking genuine connection, individuals can navigate the modern landscape of isolation and reclaim emotional resilience. Ultimately, the loneliness trap in modern life is both a societal and personal challenge. Depression may make the sense of disconnection more acute, yet awareness of these patterns empowers individuals to act differently by prioritizing authentic relationships, seeking meaningful engagement, and balancing solitude with genuine connection. It is possible to escape the illusion of company and embrace real intimacy. Yalom teaches that acknowledging the existential reality of isolation does not doom us to despair. Rather, it equips us to live more intentionally, forging relationships that are not only present, but deeply resonant. In doing so, the modern trap of loneliness becomes not an insurmountable barrier, but a challenge to be navigated with insight, courage, and purpose. Moving from isolation to authentic connection is perhaps the most profound journey any individual can undertake, especially for those who have endured prolonged loneliness or depression. Irvin Yalom, in Existential Psychotherapy, emphasizes that human beings are inherently relational creatures, yet existential isolation is an unavoidable reality. Recognizing this paradox is the first step toward meaningful engagement. We are fundamentally alone in our subjective experience, yet our capacity to connect authentically with others is what gives life depth and significance. For many struggling with depression, this journey is daunting because the pain of past experiences, fear of rejection, and internalized self-criticism create barriers that seem insurmountable. Yet, the path toward genuine connection is both possible and transformative. The first step involves self-awareness. Understanding one's patterns of avoidance, fear, and withdrawal allows individuals to recognize how isolation has been perpetuated. Yalom explains that existential anxiety, awareness of life's impermanence, freedom, and ultimate aloneness, often manifests as relational fear. Psychoanalyst John Bowlby's research on attachment highlights how early relational experiences shape our comfort with intimacy and vulnerability. Recognizing these influences does not excuse self-isolation, but it illuminates the roots of disconnection, allowing for conscious choice rather than automatic withdrawal. Depression can make this recognition painful, yet it also increases the urgency of change. Prolonged isolation intensifies despair, whereas intentional engagement can foster hope. Vulnerability is central to authentic connection. Rollo May, in his writings on existential psychology, argues that the courage to reveal one's true self, even in the face of uncertainty or potential rejection, is the foundation of deep relationships. For someone who has experienced depression, this may involve slowly testing trust, sharing emotions, or acknowledging needs that have long been hidden. The process is gradual. Authentic connection is built incrementally through consistent acts of openness, empathy, and mutual understanding. Yalom emphasizes that meaningful relationships are not free from conflict or difficulty, but they are characterized by honesty, presence, and the willingness to engage despite fear. Therapeutic relationships often serve as a microcosm for this process. In both individual and group therapy, individuals can experience being seen, understood, and accepted in a controlled, safe environment. Yalom notes that these experiences can provide corrective emotional experiences, allowing individuals to internalize the possibility of connection. Viktor Frankl's work reinforces this idea. Meaning is often discovered through relationships, service, and engagement with life beyond oneself. By experiencing empathy and validation in therapy or supportive contexts, those struggling with depression can gradually build the skills and confidence necessary to pursue authentic connections in broader social spheres. Practical steps toward authentic connection involve both introspection and action. Mindfulness, journaling, and reflection allow individuals to understand their emotional needs and relational patterns, while intentional social engagement fosters real-world application. Simple gestures, a meaningful conversation, attentive listening, or offering support can lay the foundation for deeper bonds. Over time, repeated experiences of mutual understanding and trust transform isolation into intimacy, creating a positive feedback loop. The more connection is experienced, the more capable the individual becomes of sustaining it, and the less intimidating it feels. Ultimately, moving from isolation to authentic connection is a process of courage, patience, and persistence. Depression may slow the journey, casting shadows of doubt and fear, but the potential rewards are profound. Yalom emphasizes that embracing relational vulnerability is not a weakness. It is an affirmation of our shared humanity. Genuine connection does not erase existential isolation, but it allows individuals to navigate life's inherent aloneness with support, empathy, and meaning. In this sense, connection becomes both a balm for the wounds of isolation and a catalyst for personal growth, reminding us that while we are ultimately alone in our subjective experiences, the bonds we create with others bring depth, purpose, and resonance to our lives. By consciously engaging with others, acknowledging fears, and practicing authenticity, individuals can transform the shadow of isolation into a space of relational richness. Depression does not have to define one's capacity to connect. Instead, it can highlight the areas that need attention, care, and courage. Yalom's insights remind us that human connection is not only possible, but essential for a life lived fully. Through deliberate effort, reflection, and vulnerability, isolation can give way to authentic connection, allowing individuals to experience the profound joy, understanding, and meaning that comes from genuine relationships. In this way, the journey from isolation is not merely about escaping loneliness, but about embracing the potential for a life enriched by real human connection. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into the human mind. Share your thoughts or experiences with loneliness and connection in the comments. We want to hear your story. And if you found value here, give this video a like to help others discover it too. Remember, you are not alone in this journey, and each small step toward understanding yourself is a step toward meaningful connection. Stay with us for more insights that can transform your inner world.